Hey guys, gun-loving Patriot here. This video today is mainly for people who live in the state of Illinois, but if you're not and you still want to watch it, go ahead. It'll give you a little bit of insight as to what's going on inside of this state. But anyway, so for the people of Illinois, the first thing I want to say is it's time to get out. It is time. We've spent way too much time arguing and pleading with our politicians who have no concern whatsoever for the rights of the individuals inside their state. They continue to do what they want to do, and they don't care what everybody else has to say about it. Starting January 1st of 2019, 3 bills, especially out of the 200-something that are being passed in the state of Illinois, will take effect. And all 3 of them are very anti-gun, very anti-Second Amendment. The first bill would be House Bill 2354. And what that does is, they call it the Firearms Restraining Order Act, or other states that we've already seen, it's called the Red Flag Law. And what it does is, it pretty much just takes the word of anybody who decides they want to come forward. If somebody you know were to come up to the police or come up to a government official and say, hey, this person, I think he's a threat to himself or others, you need to intervene, they go in and they take your rights away, they take your guns away without due process, and you have to fight it in court. And that right there, it violates your order of due process. You're supposed to, if your rights are taken away, they are supposed to be taken away in court, not beforehand. You are required, because of the Constitution, to face your accuser and to not have your rights taken away until you are proven guilty. You're innocent until proven guilty, but apparently not anymore in this country. This country does everything backwards. So this new House Bill 2354 that takes effect January 1st in the state of Illinois will pretty much take away anybody who is a potential threat to themselves or others. If they have firearms, they have to turn their firearms into the government. I mean, where have we gone in this country where your constitutional right no longer matters? It's stupid. There's politicians who are in political office right now that care more about the money that they make than actually following what the Constitution says and does what the American citizens want them to do. The second one is the House Bill 4855, which ties into the first bill. And what it does is, anyone that goes to any sort of mental hospital that is looking for any sort of mental health treatment, they are put on a list to pretty much restrict their rights as well. So this is a major issue for people that are coming back from the Middle East. For, you know, if they're in the military, if they're coming back and they suffer from PTSD, although they may be perfectly normal, perfectly healthy individuals that know what's going on, but according to our government, PTSD is a mental disorder. And so these individuals who used firearms to defend our freedoms overseas are now having their rights stripped away because of the fact that they suffer from PTSD. It's stupid. They're passing bills and they're passing legislation in this country without the concern of the citizens, just so that they can go out and take our rights away and take our guns away from us. And they're doing this for a reason. If an armed populace is no longer armed, then they can tell us what to do whenever they want to. So our rights are being stripped away, our freedoms are being taken from us, and people, both right and left, are going along with this as if it's no big deal. But I had an argument the other day with a guy who was talking about how, with the whole bump stock issue, well, what's the deal? It's a bump stock. Nobody needs one. Okay, people may not need it, but it's protected under the Second Amendment. I mean, there's just so much stuff going on. There's so many so many restrictions that are happening to the Second Amendment that may seem minuscule, but they lead to something bigger down the line. If you don't believe me, look up the National Firearms Act in 1934. Up until 1934, the civilians in the United States had the exact same firearms as the military, and now we don't. Why is that? The Second Amendment gives us the right to protect ourselves against a tyrannical government. Well, if the tyrannical government has better firepower than we do, then what's the point of protecting ourselves? They want to restrict our rights so that they have more say in what we do and say as civilians. The last one is the Senate Bill 3256. And this one, again, falls under the guise of, oh, well, it's not a big deal. It's a 72-hour waiting period on all firearms. In the state of Illinois, we're already dealing with unconstitutional laws like 72 hours on a waiting period for handguns and 24 hours for long guns. Well, as of January 1st, it is now a 72-hour waiting period on long guns, shotguns, and handguns. Everything across the board. And people say, well, what's the big deal? It's just a waiting period. Well, let's say you're a young woman who has an abusive boyfriend, and the abusive boyfriend has a restraining order against him, which is just a piece of paper. And that abusive boyfriend feels he doesn't need to follow that restraining order. And you go out and you purchase yourself a firearm. Well, now you have to wait 3 days to receive that firearm, even though the background check was done instantaneously when you filled out the background check paperwork in the gun store. So now you have to wait 72 hours. But let's say your boyfriend comes back and he's only going to wait 24 hours. 24 hours later, he comes and he kills this person. Okay? Yeah, that may be one instance, but we see it more and more happening with domestic abuse cases more often than not. Is you've got domestic abuse people who they try to protect themselves and they can't because they have to wait for a firearm. If the background check is instantaneous, there should be no reason whatsoever that American citizens have to wait 72 hours to receive a firearm. Criminals don't do background checks anyway. Criminals will find other means of getting a firearm or a weapon in order to use it. They don't care what the law says. They're not going to follow the law. They're going to do what they need to do to get what they want so that they can commit whatever crime they want to commit. You've got people that argue, oh, well, all these mass shootings that have happened over the last couple of years, they all passed background checks. Yeah, they did. They got their firearms legally. And a longer waiting period would not have caused that to be any different. A waiting period is just the government saying, oh, well, we feel safer if you wait a longer period of time because, oh, if a criminal goes and does a background check and has to wait 3 days or wait 5 days or wait 10 days, it's going to deter them and they're not going to commit that crime anymore. No, they'll just find another way to get another weapon so that they can commit what they want to commit. I'm tired of this, people. I'm tired of our government coming in and telling us what we can and can't do with our firearms. I'm tired of our government coming in and telling us that we do not have the right to defend ourselves. So, I made this video to say one thing. The people in the state of Illinois, it's time for us to get up and move. If the politicians aren't going to listen to our phone calls, our emails, our text messages, if they're not going to listen to us on Twitter and Instagram, and trust me, I'm one of those who is constantly calling out our senators and stuff from the state of Illinois, telling them they need to oppose certain bills that are unconstitutional because it violates the Second Amendment. If these politicians aren't going to listen to the people that they represent, it's time to get out. It's time to move to a different state, one that is pro-Second Amendment, one that has politicians that actually listens to their constituents instead of ignoring them and doing their own thing, whatever it is. It's time to move. It's easier to get up and move than to be stuck in a slave state by an oppressive government. Because once Illinois, and you can mark my words on this, once Illinois starts passing these laws which restrict the rights of the Second Amendment, it's not going to be long before they take more and more from us, and they start taking our ammo, and they start taking our firearms, and they restrict what you can and can't carry on your person whenever you try to defend yourself. It's time to move. It's time to leave the state. It's time to find a new place to live. That's the only way. Our votes no longer matter. You can vote whoever you want in, but it's still going to be the same anti-gun, anti-Constitution propaganda. It's time to get out. If you vote with your feet and you move and you vote with your money, it'll send a better better example to the people in Washington, the people in Chicago. It'll send a better example to them than your single vote on election day. So that's why I made this video. It's time to stand up to our government. It's time to stand up to the people in Chicago who tell the people of the rest of the state what to do. It's time to get up and get out. There are better states out there that will protect your Second Amendment rights and allow you to be a free American than the state of Illinois. It's time to move. And I'm tired of dealing with our politicians. So it's up to you. It's easy. I believe it's easier to move than it is to continue to vote these corrupt people in. So if you want to do it with me, let's get an exodus going. Let's make sure that Illinois changes its mind on the way that they treat their citizens. That's all I have for today. This is Gun Loving Patriot signing out. I want to thank our military for what they do, because we're free because of them. I want to thank our law enforcement. Continue to do what you do. Be safe out there. To our politicians, we're going to take your jobs. See ya.